In the previous video, I said we'd start by adding checkbox on off. So let's do that right before we do much. So inside my views, you see we have a quite in my view models. Let's just not in the view models. In the views, I will go to my tests page here. And you can see that you should have your UI ready like this. And now I'm gonna space is checked, and I'm gonna give it a binding. Don't worry, I just started off in a sudden, but you can do the same. I'll explain to you why I did that later on. And is checked equals to binding. And of course you can see we don't have something that we can actually bind it with, right? There's no way to bind our any bool. I mean, it's impossible to bind a bool without a bool. If you don't have a bool determined and declared in our test page model, then you can't. So let's remove this. We're gonna do this once we have got everything ready. So that's it. Well, how about we go down and add some more UI? After this, let's go bottom to the button text here. This big button needs a proper button and doesn't need to be closed without a button. Okay, make it like that. Once that's done, add a button dot triggers. Now what actually a trigger does, you know how you work with triggers? Well, if you don't, then you should learn what a trigger can do. It can do quite a lot. But button dot triggers, and then we want a data trigger. Set it to a target type, and I'm gonna actually set this to a simple target type button, and that's it. So let's close this, and in this, before we do anything, we need to add something, and I'm going to add a binding. So I add a binding, and just like I said before, if you don't have a bool, then you can simply not even bind it, right? So you remove that, just remove it, and we're gonna add a simple, we're gonna add another data trigger. So let's add a data trigger with a target type, and we're gonna set the target type to button, and just close that too. Now I think that I'm not gonna go further inside, and I'm not thinking that I should do some more UI right here. Let's just get on with the logic inside that we will need to add. So we will go back inside the solution explorer, and let's find where our okay, I wasn't able to find it. Let's go in the view models, and that's why I wasn't able to find it. Let's open the test page view model, and we don't need to remove all of these because of course we're using them right here. And I'm gonna at the top of my classes, I have to add quite a few bools, right? Two bools, because one for our yes and the second one for our no, right? Underneath, let's make a good spacing and make private underscore, and I'm gonna bool 1. Now underscore is yes. Alright, let's close it. Now we should create another public bool, right? We want a public, and we want this to be a bool, and we're gonna call this underscore is yes. Alright, so let's close it with the semicolon. Well, of course you now know that semicolons are only used if you just want to terminate, but here we are not wanting to terminate, right? We are wanting to do some more stuff. So I just created a bool function, and we're gonna say get open two curly brackets, inside return our is yes indeed. After that, let's close it with a curly bracket. Well, the curly bracket was not meant to be inside the semicolon. Let's remove it, And the reason why it's supposed to be outside is because when you say a get and then you're returning something, the curly bracket is supposed to be and is not gonna be happy if you put it inside. So it's supposed to be outside, and I just put like that. Let's set, and I'm going to now set. Okay, we're gonna set something. First we will get, and we can return the is yes. Then we're gonna set if is yes is not equals to value. Then inside where our brackets are, we need to set is yes to value. Because if the is yes is not even a value, then what is it? Is it rubbish? Well, not really, right? Now once this is done, we need to actually add something, right? We need to add some, and we need to add another bool. But before we do that, let's go and add an iNotify property changed. Now what this does is it allows us to use a property changed. So let's, underneath here, let's add on property changed. And in the on property changed, let's just add a name of that simple object, right? And what is that checking of what are we checking? Well, of course we're checking the is yes, and that is what we're going to check right here, whether the bool has changed. Now I am going to, in the next video, I'm gonna create a video of how you can use no on properties. Okay, it's just gonna be simple code. I'm writing hard code right now. So if is yes, then, and of course now we don't have another bool, right? So we have to create one. Let's copy. I think we forgot a bracket. Let's add that bracket too. Over here, let's pull this down. And now let's copy it. Okay. And let's just paste it. First make a very good big spacing and paste it. You can see is yes, is yes, is yes, is yes, is yes, is yes, so many. And you can see in the arrow it says ambiguity between these two bools. And you can simply change every one of them to is no. And that will be it for the errors that just pop up so badly. But they already went away, right? That's what you tell me. But I'll tell you that's not a good way. And let's change it to finally is no. Rather is no. Okay, so both of these bools need to be set on and off at a time. So at the top here, I don't know what this is getting upset at us for some reason. Maybe they want some spacing. Private is yes. And I forgot to add a bool because I am a bit funny. And on the top also, let's add a bool, base 64 formatting options. That's not right. That's too much and too hard for you to understand even. Okay, I think this was supposed to be a bool, not a bool. Okay, bool is yes, yeah, that's fine. Let's say this to is no. And wow, you can see that is no and is yes both are yelling at me now for my acts for some reason. Anyway, let's just set is no. Now this bool actually is going to be set false at the top right here. So is no, and we're going to say false. Now why I'm setting is no to false is because if is yes is true, then what do we do with is no? We have to set him to false, right? And if is no never becomes false, that means, what does that mean? That means that there has a problem. So is yes equals to false as soon as is no occurs, because now we're toggling between one bool and the other bool. Okay, so hopefully this code should work, but before we go ahead, we need to add a public, and this is a event. Now what an event actually does, well, I'm not gonna explain to you in this, I'm gonna just explain it in a later video. Public event property changed event handler, and you can see that we have quite a lot. Now name that to property. What do we name that? A capital P rather than a small p, and we're gonna say property changed. This is gonna be my property changed event handler that will handle most of the stuff. So underneath it, let's create a function, and I'm gonna call this function protected override void. Protected virtual void rather, not override, it's protected virtual void. Now you must know the meaning of virtual, so I won't tell you. Protected virtual void on property changed. Okay, that's cool. Let's just give it a string, and this string is gonna be our property name, comma, yeah, let's just open this function now. You don't need a comma for that because you just don't need it. And now let's get that property change function that we had, and then add a question mark, invoke, and you can see that intelligence just did all that code, and boom, we've got all that code ready to launch. I can see is no, is yes, is no, is no, is no, is no, so many ambiguities. Private, for some reason there's an ambiguity in this. Is yes, why is that happening? Anyway, let's see. Next error set is no. And what's this problem that we are occurring right now? It didn't occur first of all, and of course this was supposed to be something else, not is no exact. It's supposed to be I capital no, and all of these need to be capital I is yes, right? And that's it, no more errors left to chase away. On the top, let's remove the observable object because this is not much needed, and let's save. Let's see, we don't need to add. So now that you have set this up all nicely, you should be able to get the bolts in the tests here. First, let's get a setter. So let's get that set up first. Inside this, we need to get the binding again. As I told you, without anything you can't get something. Binding with our is yes, because that's what really we are mattering right now. Then we want a value that's gonna be true, not false. And I think, oh sorry, let me just make it capital true. And now let's get the setter with a property. Oh, property, and we're gonna give it what do we need to give it? Is enabled, is visible rather, and we're gonna give it a value again and true. So if the binding with the is yes value equals to true, theta property is visible value is equals to false. Let's paste that here too. Alright, that's it. So we need to add still a little bit more code. It's not like you're done yet. Let's set this one to false, and this is trigger base. Let's take this with myself, but I won't copy it, I'll write it rather. So with a bracket with bindings and is yes. Again, this value will be false because we want it to be false when this thing occurs, and when that is occurring, it should be working perfectly now. So let's just try and play this on our Pixel 5 API 33, Android 13.0 API 33. So long name. That took my head off. Right now my emulator, it's not showing up. Let's see, do we need any more fixtures, anything left in here? No, so we can play now. And let's wait for it to do while I just wait. I'll just wait for it, so you have to wait for it too. Okay, we're getting that set up, and it's slow. Well, yeah, there it is. Start, and I'm gonna say test. Alright, you can see I can say yes, and I can say no. So this is great right now, but when we check box on off, we can't actually see this. So it's checked here. We're gonna set with the binding, and of course we need to set it to is yes, because on the top we have the yes label, so this is an is yes. Now I'm gonna surprise you by something called mode. Mode is equals to two-way. Now what this is, I can also make this a one-way, so when this becomes checked, it can never be made false. And I'm gonna copy paste it. Mode equals to two-way. I'm gonna change this to is no. Quite surprising, eh? So now I have to rebuild and apply changes, and let's see what that shows up to us. Okay, a .NET, it takes so much time for some reason, even though Hyper-V is on, but Hyper-V is still doing a great job right now. Let's start and go back into tests, and you can see I can say yes, and nothing actually opened. No data triggers. Well, at least let me see whether we can toggle. You can see bool is there, and this is a public bool. Nothing worked really. But let's see whether we can toggle between yes and no. So nope, it didn't toggle even between these two. That's a little bit surprising. For some reason it didn't toggle. Let's go and let's close this. Now let's change this to the Windows machine, and let's see, because you know that emulators can also pop up with quite a lot of errors. Who cares? Let's just wait for it to do what it wanted. It takes so long, but Hyper-V is still doing a great job. It's not pausing, it's not doing anything really. Okay, alright, there it is. Oh, for some reason, the .NET.png on my face, making his big head wave. Okay, we don't know. We're gonna just change this big fat headed person back to a normal 100. Just that's fine. Alright, let's wait for it. And boom. That's looking good. Haha. Let's go and test. And if I click yes, and I know it doesn't even toggle, it doesn't even open the buttons. So this was all just for a test. I am gonna paste the real code now. So I'm gonna copy a little bit of code, and I'm gonna sneak peek it out, and I will actually paste it here. You guys can pause this video and you can actually write all that code yourself. Or I can, well, I'm not gonna give you any links below that code. So you need to write it yourself. And so I'm going to copy some code. I've copied it. And let's actually paste some code into this. And let's paste it. Very cool. there it is. Now you can see we have quite do we have any errors? That's my question. I want to see whether we have quite errors. Well, we don't have much errors on this place. Let's rebuild. Okay, it's gonna close build to, and you can see that one failed right there. Let's just see. Okay, binding the properties. That is one problem. Now I'm gonna again paste code inside all that code. So back here you can see we have a lot of things rather. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna copy some code and I'm going to paste it in this region. Okay, so let me first change this to a Pixel 5 API 33 Android API 13, and let's pause it now. Actually, I didn't pause it, it was just a joke to make it funny. Anyways, check it out. Let's paste in a few code that I just copied, and yeah, there it is. I copied this code and this looks pretty good to me. I can click the play button and you'll see what happens. It will work pretty good. No errors, nothing will occur while you are doing your bool up, down, up, down. And this is not a joke, right? I am 100% sure this is gonna work. So start, and I'm gonna go and test. 1000% this works. And I toggle, and yes, we have it toggling. Quite 100% sure worked out. Now, this visible when bool 1 is true is really nonsense. It doesn't have much anything really. It's just when bool 1 is visible it works, right? So now I'm gonna copy and I'm gonna paste a few more. I'm not pasting checkboxes right here, so don't get too over. And I'm gonna let's just say text number line, and I'm gonna here addition more bottom. You can add a subtraction, and if you are if you want to add more, you can add more. Let's rebuild and apply changes because it won't have worked without rebuilding all these changes. So now if you see in our app that we just have right here, okay, let's just wait for it to load. It's taking too long. Right, let's go in the start button, tests. Oh, sorry, in the test. If I click yes, you see those three buttons right there. Now, they look pretty good to me because they don't have much of a sticky feeling, right? They're quite fine. After that number line, we need to get a command, and we're gonna bind it with bools. So the first bool we want, not bools, of course we want a command, right? Because this is not actually bool enabling. So go to number line page command as one command. Back in the background color, we're gonna set it to blue because I want my buttons to look polished, and then get a corner radius of 30. Then we want a horizontal options. Maybe where's that? I'm trying to find the horizontal options. Let me see. Do we have something called shadow? And I'm gonna set this to true. Okay, I don't think shadow supports something called true. I don't think we need it even. Now I'm gonna ask for, let's see, do we have something good here? Nothing really, let's see. Clip compressed corner radius, we have added that. And we have font attributes, bold, and let's give a font size to our beautiful font size, and I'm gonna give it a subtitle. Okay, so this looks pretty good to me now. This is looking pretty good and doesn't, so let's copy that. All that big line of code will be written for all the rest. Let's copy it and paste it in here. No need to make a spacing because I copied the space also. And let's just again change this first to addition page rather, and let's again bottom paste. Oh, I pasted too big. Anyway, go to subtraction page. Now you shall see that we have quite something running up. If we go into our emulator, I can click it now, and yes, but there's no real actual text that we can see right here. So first of all, let's pause. Let's just add some text, not pause it. But first, let's add a stack layout with a spacing. Let's first copy these and paste them, and let's remove these two. We don't need them because they are standing outside the stack layout. Okay, now you can see that we have quite a few bools stacked on top of each other vertically. I'm searching in the bottom stack layout, which is not correct, right? We have to always search in the top layout. The bottom layout is horrible because it pops so many errors if you ever try to do that. Orientation equals to horizontal. Let's get a label text. What this label text actually does is we're gonna paste in no code. We're just gonna give it a yes on its face. Yeah, that's it. Underneath, let's add another label, another text. No. Okay, and close that from the outside. So cool. This is gonna look pretty neat now. There it is with the yes and a no. Now I'm not gonna actually do something, but I'm just gonna give it a spacing of 5. And now let's see. Yep, look thicker, look better. Good. They look cool. They look nice. They're better. They don't have much of a crumpled paper look together stuck. Alright, so now let's actually add another label text and we're gonna close it. Add another label text and we're gonna close it. And then up to top of the first label, we're gonna get ready. And we're gonna say to take the tests. Okay, that looks pretty neat and nice. Okay, and we're gonna ask him the question, are you ready to take the tests? Just are you ready? It's fine, not to write so big line. And capital A rather than small a. Let's save that and let's see. Look, that looks pretty neat, but it's stuck in the corner. Okay, so we can say no, and nothing also happens when we no. Nothing really much happens, but don't worry, we are gonna navigate him to a page as soon as he says no. Okay, so back here where we want our bool to navigate, underneath where we want the yes to be false, we're gonna go underneath and write in application.current.mainpage.navigation.push async, so many dots again. And this is gonna be navigation from the new page. So we're gonna click in and type in new, and this is gonna be the learning page. Now this is again using the it isn't using anything. Anyway, who cares? Let's remove this because it's useless, really doesn't get used anymore. And now that we're gonna navigate to the learning page, back here if I click on no, rather first yes, and then no, it navigates me to that learning page. Okay. Yeah, no. Okay, so this is how you should be having your UI, and this is how you should be having your logic. This is how everything should be looking like. This is how it should be looking. Great. So let's add, okay, we don't have that. Let's add an activity indicator just for fun to show you how it looks like. I'm gonna add an activity indicator to is running to true, and if you close that right now, you see that there's an activity indicator. Now you'll see what I mean by activity indicator. See, that's what I meant. I can say yes, I can say no, but for some reason we don't have that activity indicator running on the learning page. We have it running on this page. Okay, so it's running back to true. Let's actually bind with something, so maybe it looks much better. So binding with a bool 1 or the bool 2, because if the no is pressed, then only it should start, right? So no, and this activity indicator is actually running. It is actually working. I'm going to actually use this activity indicator, but don't worry, you don't get to overload it and try to use it yourself, because it's really hard to use these activity indicators with this is running. Only if you have proper head knowledge and maybe you want to show off, you can send a video in the comments below and show how you added your activity indicator. Tell me how you did it. I'll tell you whether that was a good idea or not. Anyway, this is really good now. We have literally added so much polish. We can say yes, we can say no. There is quite a lot of stuff done now. So now let's stop it, and in the next video we will add UI to our number line page view model. See you in the next video, guys, and remember, if you haven't subscribed, then subscribe now.